What's up, selectors? It's Select Screen here. Man, I am super excited to have you all here with me. This is going to be something a little different. I hope you guys have enjoyed Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Before we get started, I want to say spoilers. Don't yell at me. I'm letting you know now. We are talking about spoilers. Yes, this is coming out technically Thursday. This is Friday when we're recording this. So if you have not gone and seen the movie, go and check it out. While you're here, though, go check us out down below, twitch.tv/selectscreen and twitch.tv/Elmo172331. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can go and like us there, as well as Mixer. If you want to help support the stream, check us out up above there by Twitch cheering us. Player.me/selectscreen #tip. We're on Patreon, or you can use the Cash app at 5ELECT5CREEN. We're going to be doing a lot of back and forth questions, thoughts. No answer is really wrong here. This is going to be something kind of, back and forth, but ultimately, I'm going to tell you, and this is going to be my last spoiler warning. They're spoilers. All right, they're spoilers. If you don't know they're spoilers by now, they're spoilers. Spoilers. We have a spoiler-free reaction that we did with Movie Camp. Shout out to Movie Camp. Go check that out on our YouTube. All right. Yeah, man, this is crazy. I'm so excited for this. Let's start off with what you guys thought. Drop in the comments down below what you thought of Star Wars as I go ahead and get us over to this baby so I can talk to you in your face and you can know that is real, as they say. The Rise of Skywalker. Whew. So while you guys are writing that in the comments, I'm going to be checking our Facebook as well. Because for some strange reason, OBS doesn't bring it over. I don't know why. Don't ask me. But it doesn't bring our Facebook chat over. I don't get it. Restream will figure it out one day, I guess. But yeah, let me know what you guys initially thought, and then I'll give you my thoughts here as the thoughts come rolling in. Let's see. I will pull up. Our Facebook should be good. Should be rocking and rolling. Yes, excellent, Smithers. That looks great. That looks wonderful. That looks great. That looks wonderful. Make sure we get this over to our all of our other places as well. Let me get this over to our Facebook official page. There we go. And let's see. All right. So, Star Wars, Rise of the Skywalker. What did I think? This movie's awesome. It's awesome. It is by far, are you ready for this? By far and away, my favorite Star Wars. Why? What? How? Empire exists. Revenge of the Sith exists. Jedi exists. The original exists. How can this be my favorite? Spoilers. I'm going to say it again because I know people are going to freak out, and I don't want you to freak out. Don't do it. Don't be that guy that freaks out, okay? Here is why Rise of the Skywalker is my favorite. Rise of the Skywalker does something that a Star Wars movie has never, ever done for me outside of Empire. No, I don't think even Empire did this. Rise of the Skywalker did something that no other Star Wars movie has done. It made me believe that at some point in time, the main characters were going to die. Why? 2 points. Number one, it's the final movie in the Skywalker trilogy, quadrilogy, whatever you want to call it. It's the final one. So right off the bat, I'm like, man, you know what? Anybody could go. Anybody could go. It's not even an issue if they go ahead and they let Rey go at the end of this movie, or they let Kylo or Ben die in this one. Anybody could die in this movie. We know that Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, passed away in the last movie, so we knew she was going to die. It's how they did it. There's one point in the movie, and again, spoilers, here it is. Chewie, and it's kind of our first, it's our first way of knowing who Rey really is. We see Force lightning come out of Rey, and it kills Chewbacca. Bro, when this happened, I was sitting there with my wife and one of my good friends, and I was just like, are you kidding me? They killed Chewbacca. So when Chewbacca died, I was already like, okay, everything's on the table. Here we go. J.J. Abrams is going there. Let's see. Lauren Dennis says, we're seeing it tomorrow. Don't listen to this. Go watch the spoiler-free review. Don't watch spoilers. So that was mind-blowing for me. Then this is why the movie, to me, it did something that a lot of, especially modern movies, don't do anymore. They don't drag out a death that didn't happen. So obviously Chewie doesn't die, right? The characters think he's dead, but we know in the next scene that Chewie was actually on a different ship. Chewie didn't die. Phew. But a lot of movies will tend to drag that out for the characters. The characters don't know, and they keep fooling around, and they're thinking Chewie's dying, and that becomes their motivation, is to avenge Chewie. They didn't fall into that. Just a few scenes later, they find out, no, okay, he wasn't on there. We're good. So that was great. They weren't going to dwell on that. They were going to go ahead and they were going to move forward. So that was exciting for me. The next thing, and we're getting people all in the chat right now. The next thing about this movie, the first again was characters could die. The second thing was my favorite part of the Star Wars movies is the action, the lightsaber duels. Believe it or not, episode 1 I really enjoyed, not based upon story, but based upon the fact that there is a lot of good lightsaber fighting. This movie has lightsaber fighting throughout, like, the whole thing. It's one large lightsaber fight between Kylo Ren and Rey, and they fight and they fight and they fight and they fight and they fought, and there was action to it. So that was huge. I was like, finally they're just fighting. Just fight. That's what we want to see. So that was cool. Number 3 is every single character in the movie, every single one of them had a purpose. Even the bonus characters. Even, and again, here we go. Han Solo showing up. He had a reason to be there. It wasn't like, and a lot of critics, and I'm talking about professional critics, are saying, well, no, There's just too much fan service. No, there was a reason why when Kylo transitioned from Ben to Kylo and he killed Han Solo, that was important. So for him to come back to the light side of the Force, Han needed to be a part of that. So there was a character moment. Billy D. Williams comes back in this movie, and they could have easily had him do a little thing where, hey guys, I was with Luke, and, I've been out here and I don't really fly anymore. They did that to some degree, but then he comes back and he's leading the charge of all of the ships. I mean, here he is. Donald Glover killed it in the role. Now here's Billy D. Williams in the role, and he has a reason. He's got the Falcon back. There's a reason for him to be there. Chewie was there for a reason. C-3PO finally had a legit reason to be in the story. And that was one of my problems. And I'm not going to go into a lot of The Last Jedi, but one of the problems with Last Jedi, it was like, why are they in the movie? R2, it was just this weird thing. But they gave him a reason. And was he super cool this time? I don't know. But it just made sense for him to be in the movie. They finally used the translating bot to translate stuff. It was practical. Now, I've heard the criticism that the movie doesn't take risks. Here's where the movie does take risks, is that it corrected another movie. And that is huge for me. Last Jedi for me is borderline. It's still Star Wars, so I still like it. But it's borderline. I don't like this movie because it went against everything. It went against everything that Star Wars was before. Force Awakens, The Rise of Skywalker, those movies, while I don't think Force Awakens is perfect, I do think that it works together still with Rise of Skywalker. It just worked. Unlike The Last Jedi, which was just, we're going to take characters, we're going to flip them on their heads just to make the audience, feel something. I think that's wrong. When you're trying to, you should get emotion and a reaction from your characters because people love the characters and they enjoy, whether good or bad, they enjoy the characters, not because you're causing controversy. And that's what makes The Rise of Skywalker so great, is it's like, listen, this Last Jedi still happened, but Luke goes on to say, as the Force goes, I was wrong. You got to take care of this lightsaber. You can't just go and throw this stuff away. You can't just exile yourself off. All of the negative things that Last Jedi even was telling us subliminally, Rise of the Skywalker undoes that, and it sets things right. The whole movie is really about that, right? Setting things right. Then let's get to the big thing. Let's talk about Rey. Rey, I think, is make or break on if you like the sequel trilogy. Some people don't like her. Some people love her. My take on Rey was, I'm going to wait and see until all of this is over. And I can honestly say I like Rey now. I can say that I like Rey. Why? Because Rey went through an arc. She fully went through it. But we were nervous about Rey. And the reason why she was kind of on the edge, do we like Rey, do we not like Rey, is because, I want to go back to Last Jedi. There were so many things with Rey that weren't fleshed out from a story perspective. Rey, while we knew that she was Force sensitive, we knew that she was, she was going to be a Jedi or a Sith. There was no real reasoning why. She came from nowhere, kind of in The Force Awakens. She didn't train, but she was stronger than Kylo. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's okay. I think that's okay in a first movie when you're talking about, we know we're going to do a trilogy, right? The second movie, we're expecting to at least get a little more knowledge, maybe not the big reveal, but a little more knowledge into that thing, into that question that we have, and we don't get it. So that really put Rey on like, okay, again, she's not training. How is she getting stronger? She's, what's going on? Finally, in this movie, when we first see her, she's been practicing. There's been some time, just like any Star Wars movie, there's been some time she is training. She's learning. She's learning from Leia. Leia's right there. That's another thing that I love about this movie. I never felt like and this is what puts this movie above all of the rest of them. All of them. They went and they fixed things back in older movies. The movies that we do love. One of the two, let me go into this before, and I'll come back to Rey. There are two things that have always bothered me about Star Wars. All of them. And these are my big criticism. Why was Leia never properly given a Jedi training, or why did she decide to be a general? She was a princess, but she was supposed to be force sensitive. She's the sister of Luke. She should be just as powerful as him. To me, that makes sense, right? Last Jedi, we see her use these Jedi powers, and we're like, but she wasn't trained. She has no reason other than being a Skywalker to have this. She wouldn't know how to necessarily use the Force. Fast forward, here we are, Rise of the Skywalker. We find out, no, Luke did train her. We didn't know about it. She has a lightsaber, the whole thing. She set it down to sacrifice, which again makes Leia an even better character. She was already awesome, but now we know she laid down being a Jedi, so sacrificing because she knew what was coming. I mean, that to me, that adds to, how do you add to characters that are already iconic, right? That's one thing that was kind of the problem with Force Awakens, was here you still have the looming thing of Darth Vader. You have Darth Vader will always be Star Wars. When you think of Star Wars, the first person you probably think of is Darth Vader. So how do you add to that? How do you go deeper into that character when the character is gone? And they did that with Princess Leia. It honored Carrie Fisher. It was done correctly. You got a lot out of the character, and you added to the legacy of that character. That is very hard to do from a filmmaking perspective. That's very hard to do, and as a building a world and a character, very, very hard to do. J.J. Abrams killed that. One of the other things that's always bothered me, I said there were two things, is Chewie. Chewie never, ever, 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 ever got his medal from the original Star Wars, which is absolutely ridiculous. Chewie was right there. And in this movie, even Maz Kanata, who, again, I think could have been wasted. You could have not had her in this movie, and it would have been okay. But Maz Kanata still had, and hopefully I'm saying her name right, she still had a purpose. She's the one that gives Chewie the medal that he finally deserved. I mean, that, again, there was a reason for her to be in the movie. And again, we got to see it fix something in the original Star Wars, and add to that character. Chewie finally got that fulfillment of, hey, I was recognized. Super, super dope. Going back to Rey, the big reveal. I don't know if this is going to split people or not. For me, I thought for the longest time she was going to be a Kenobi. But the big reveal, again, spoilers. The big reveal is she's not a Kenobi. She's not a Skywalker. She's not a Solo. She is a Palpatine. Never saw it coming. So really, when we go back and again, this movie makes the other movies better. Going back and looking at Force Awakens, Kylo is really dealing with trying to live up to his grandfather's legacy, right? Here is Rey, who is, and they defined what is this connection between them, because we thought it was Snoke. They defined that they're polar opposites. They're one and the same. This again makes the other movies better, because now we understand why Rey doesn't necessarily have parents. They were trying to run away from Palpatine. It brings up really Kylo trying to be like his grandfather, and then Rey trying to not only find out who her family or her grandfather was, but to find out they're even deeper in their link. Mind-blowing. It makes sense. It just makes sense. This movie didn't need to go out and do something super crazy where Rey is actually an alien and she peels off her skin or something like that. It did so much by fixing Last Jedi, and it improved on the movies that came before it. It gave one of my friends asked me, he said, if you could describe it without spoiling it for me in one word, this movie is satisfying. It satisfied questions that we've had before in all of the other movies, with the exception, if I had to give some nitpicks, and I mean this is nitpicky for me, Palpatine's origin or how he survived is really loose. It's like basically robots and machines that he had for Darth Vader, his followers, and like Sith magic. That's all they kind of give you. And you know what? I'm okay with that. It's like, listen, you go to a magic show, you watch a magic show, you want to know how the trick is done, but you're at the end of the day, you're like, all right, it is what it is. And that's kind of what it was with Palpatine. It was like, he's still alive, Sith magic, his followers probably helped him, and robots. Good to go. Moving on. Let's not dwell on that. And that's another thing the movie doesn't dwell on too much. The other nitpick that I have, I love the way Finn was restored. Finn was, in Last Jedi, I mean, they made him like such a buffoon. And even Poe. Poe was, again, it was like, what are we doing with these characters? I thought Poe was going to kind of be more of a Han Solo. He ended up being more like a General Leia. Finn, my only negative with Finn in this movie is he's talking about he has something that he wanted to always tell Rey. And that's what kind of drove him through this trilogy, was he had some kind of connection with Rey. I'm not saying it had to be romantic, but there was something he needed to tell her, and it never happens. And I don't know why it doesn't happen. So much so that it's not one of those things like where he says it, regrets it, and then they leave it alone. They bring it up about halfway through the movie again, like, hey, what were you going to say? And he's like, I'm not going to really say. And it's like, well, guys, you gotta tell us. We want to know, you've set that up. So that was probably the only payoff that didn't happen. The last thing, of all of the Star Wars additional characters, new characters in each movie. So we had Greedo back in the prequels. Let's see, who else am I thinking of? Well, Darth Maul as a villain. Then in the original series, Yoda. Well, let's go back to prequel again. Jar Jar Binks. Those characters have always been hit and miss, right? You have your original cast, and the original cast is just phenomenal. Even in the prequels, outside of what's his name, Hayden, the guy who played Anakin, those characters, the core characters, are pretty dang good. They're pretty good. But when we talk about a lot of the CG characters, again, we get to Jabba the Hutt, cool, but then there's some side characters that you're just like, what are these things? I don't care. This movie Oh, and let me go to the sequel trilogy on this note. BB-8, I think BB-8 is a keeper, right? But the Porgs never got over for me. And I guess that's kind of how people felt about Ewoks. I didn't feel that way. I loved Ewoks. But those new characters, they can be hit or miss. Hit or miss, hit or miss. This movie introduces brand new CG characters. I forget what the little wheel is. He's just a wheel and like a parking cone. And he's hilarious. The whole movie, he's hilarious. He's scared. He's like, no, thank you. No, thank you. You know, hilarious. Great character. The little guy, he's like this big, who reprograms C-3PO, is absolutely hilarious. I mean, they're going to sell so many toys of them things. It's going to be off the charts. Hilarious. There was a side character, and I didn't really catch her name, but she wears a helmet. She has a past with Poe. Again, she mattered. There was a reason for her to inspire Poe to keep going and to bring these band of ragtag people together. She had a purpose. And so ultimately, that's what this movie for me did. For me, again, we said in our spoiler-free reaction, and I'm going to say it again in this review, this movie is an A+. They did it. They pulled it off after all of these years. It came to such a great end. And to see Rey make her own lightsaber, finally, now she's a master. Now she's completed all of the things she needs to do. She feels legit. She's not just powerful just because she has completed her training, and that's what this movie made me feel like. It's complete. We don't necessarily need any more in the Skywalker. I think Skywalker can be done. I don't think Jedi necessarily, but Skywalker's journey, all of them, it's completed. So with that, selectors, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. It's more of a podcast more than anything, but this is our review. Just wanted to go in a little bit deeper because people were like, well, you liked it. Why? This is why. Guys, check us out down below, twitch.tv/selectscreen and twitch.tv/Elmo172331. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Mixer. Again, don't forget to support us. Click that like button. Leave a comment. If you like the movie, great. If you didn't like the movie, let me know why. Let's talk about it civilly, if that's the right word. Let's talk about it back and forth. As civilized, in a civilized age, as Obi-Wan would say. And again, want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, remember to choose your destiny. My name is Select Screen, and I'm out.